Thank you so much. That was wonderful. From citizen to changemaker. From sister to senator. Oh. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk. And so the first question, the most important question, is how did you get here?
Wow. Well, first of all, I have to start this conversation. We want to acknowledge and thank everyone that has already been acknowledged. Thank you so much to the center for having me. It is an honor to be the Senator Lipman, chair. That's big. But I have to say, this is a first, this sister thing up here. So for those of you recording, I don't know what's going to happen tonight.
I promise to be good.
That's because she's the baby sister, and she will tell you she's much younger, but she's not.
Right.
And I think the story of tonight will be when we get home back to Delaware with our families, Marla got a bigger round of applause. That's what's going to be the story. That's the story tonight. But the question was, how did I get here? And I was so fortunate earlier today to be able to talk to some of the students here. I mean, we are so grateful to the faculty, the staff, the chancellor, all that make this a reality. But it would not be a university if it weren't for the incredible students. And so if you are a student, raise your hand. Yeah, well, they're raising the roof and everything. I see the students. And I love the conversation with the students because it did make me reflect on the journey to become a senator. And I think maybe one of the first things that I didn't say then, but that I want to say now, because Marla and I talk about this a lot, that a lot of times people will see you and say, oh, well, you're special, or she did it, but I can't do it. And I think it's important to know sort of where we came from. We were both born in Philadelphia, and I a couple Philly people in the house too. And, we were born in the 1960s, which was a time of empowerment and struggle and fight and recognizing that we're coming out of civil rights where people are standing up and speaking up. It is a moment of, caring about the planet, which we are still trying to do to this very day. It was a time of Black power, like the 60s and 70s. We literally, as kids, would steal our parents' albums and 45s and play, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. That's what we grew up with. And I remember I was talking to my team how, we just knew about community. We knew about family. We had grandparents that were engaged and involved in the community, whether it was trying to fight gang violence, which our dad did, or whether it was just ensuring that people had access to health care, some of the things we're still fighting for in this very day. And so we grew up with this family, community kind of thing, And our dad was the first to graduate from high school, the first to graduate from college in his family, and the first to get his master's degree, and he got it from this very school, Rutgers University, School of Social Work. Baby sister here got her master's in social work, Rutgers University School, yes. And as I shared with some of you before, my own daughter got her master's in social work from Rutgers University. So you might say, why did I go to Fairleigh Dickinson? But I did. I graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson undergrad. And I think the journey has just been one of wanting to make sure our voices were heard. That's why I care about young people so much. Because I want you to know we see you, we respect you. And even if we don't, you still keep doing what you're supposed to do. And so that journey went from being an intern from going to a town hall meeting as a grad student with a 2-year-old on my hip. I was pregnant at the time. I went up to the congressman and said, hey, how can I get involved? How can I help? And he said, we have internships. You should apply. And from intern, I went on to serve as a caseworker in his congressional office, helping people on different issues, problem solving. I love that. That's it. It's like, how can we get together and problem solve? And then from caseworker to working in his office when he became governor and his cabinet, served as Secretary of Labor, Deputy Secretary of Health and Social Services, and then new governor, our first woman governor comes in. I get a chance to serve in her administration as head of state personnel. But this whole journey, people along the way said to me, you should run for office. And I never did it. And I remember being that intern, standing on the steps of the Capitol with the congressman saying, maybe one day I could be here. But then life just happened. Kids, mortgage, trying to pay the bills, working. But it really wasn't until after raising my children, ending a 20-year marriage that had a lot of ups and downs, finding and falling in love with the love of my life, a guy named Charles who was just smart, funny, kind. He was chocolatey, beautiful, make a sci-fi Q. I see a lot of Divine Nine here. And this brother was just incredible. And we had one date. He was home visiting from Shanghai, China, which is where he was working as running the Pan-Asian region of a French electrical manufacturing company. We had this one date, and I was like, this is the guy I've been dreaming about. And I ended up quitting my job. It's kind of like a Beyonce song. I just fell in love. I just quit my job. I quit my job. I put my daughter in college, and I moved to China and lived there for 5 years, where I wrote a book with 2 other women, one from Mexico and one from Kenya. And it was called Thrive, and how do you thrive in a new place? Charles and I were transitioned back to the United States in 2012, and some of you may know he went on a business trip, played a game of basketball before his meetings, and ruptured his Achilles tendon, and blood clots went to his heart and lungs, and at the age of 52, as Marla knows, the love of my life passed away. And I questioned everything. Like, why are we here? Why did that happen? Why did I finally find this love? And then he's gone. And as Marla knows, it was that whole year I was just on autopilot. Just getting up in the morning was success. Everybody in here has experienced some pain. And if you haven't, you will. And I was in the supermarket. Dad was in front of me with 3 kids, and it forever changed my life because he put back grapes because they were $9. Not Snickers, not Coke, grapes. And it snapped me out of my own pain and made me realize I'm blessed. I'm okay. Charles left everything in order before he passed. And I decided I have nothing to lose and everything to give. I had never run for anything in my life, and I said, I am running for Congress.
Yes.
I'm aiming high. I'm aiming high because people had lost their jobs during the economic downturn. They had lost their homes. Our city of Wilmington was being called Murder Town, USA because of gun violence. And I decided, I'm going to do this. And I was in a 6-way primary, as you recall, debating lawyers. Again, not what you might think as the person who should be running for Congress. Matter of fact, in one of those debates, the one guy said, I think I'm more qualified because I'm a lawyer. And I said, with all my gusto, well, I heard it's the people's house, and I'm a people. It was embarrassing. but every story I heard on the campaign trail I'm a people.
Well, and everybody in the audience said, yup.
But every story that I heard propelled me to just keep going, just keep going. Even when I didn't know how to raise the money or how to, like, that's a real thing.
It is.
Especially for women and especially for Black women. And so the more I heard, the more I kept going. And in 2016, as was said, we made Delaware history and became first woman and first person of color to represent the first state.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was at the time of Donald Trump's first.
Exactly.
So everyone else in the country was crying and Delaware was celebrating making history.
For a moment, my party got sad. As the night went on, it was like, oh my gosh.
It did get really sad really fast.
But the crazy thing about that is when you think back, I came in 2016 with Donald Trump.
Yes, you did.
I came in 2016 in the House in the minority. And I remind people of that because it was at least 70 times that they tried to replace, repeal, and change the Affordable Care Act. But it was the people, it was the people that showed up and said, no, this is important to us. My kid needs this because they're under 26, or I have a pre-existing condition, or whatever the reason was. People showed up.
Yeah.
It's the people power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you spoke a lot about being, well, we speak a lot about you being the first. So you've done a lot of firsts. So I just want to read that first is not new to you, that you were the first female Secretary of Labor in the state of Delaware. You were the first female and person of color in Congress. You were the first president of the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League. You were...
That was a woman.
That was a woman.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you were the first in our family to be born.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's another first.
Just thought about that. So how hard is it to be first? I know it's a lot harder than being the baby. So
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the birth order thing and who has it the hardest, but...
well, the question is, what have you learned?
Yeah, see, because I started to go.
Because and you being the first, it's more than just a title. With each first, you broke a glass ceiling, and then you crashed open the marble ceiling of the U.S. Senate when you and Angela Also Brooks became 4 and 5.
Right.
So what lessons did you learn along the way that serve you today so that you were able to break that ultimate marble ceiling?
It is a good question.
Thank you.
It's a tough question because even when, like, after we won in the House and a lot of reporters were asking questions about what does it feel like to make history, I don't think about that. As a matter of fact, I think about anybody who came before us just doing the work. And what I try to specifically not do is get in my head about potentially being the first. Because even in this run for Senate, truth be told, people said to me, we think you should run for governor. Because the country has never had a Black woman governor, not one. And I had to say to myself, why, and everybody should ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? What is this really about? Is it about a title? Is it about getting in a book? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And for me, I start with prayer. I prayed on it. Like, where am I supposed to go? Where are you sending me? And that was important. I thought about it. What does it take to run for governor? What does it take to run for Senate? What can I achieve? Yeah. Why do I like the House and the Senate? Because for me, it is local, it's my state, it's my country, it's the world. I was an international relations major. So to me, I always thought, like when I got my first job, so for any of you young folks out there, like my first job was McDonald's. I'm still asking, how may I serve you? I mean, you know, but there's a thread through a lot of my jobs. Summer Youth Employment and Training Program, Secretary of Labor, Head of State Personnel. I was deployed to the country of Jordan to advise the Minister of Labor. There's this thread. And I always thought, oh man, I'm doing all these jobs that are so local. I was supposed to be all around the world. I was supposed to be at the United Nations, and I'm at the Summer Youth County Program. But all of those things led to this moment. So now, when an ambassador comes in, I've been to your country. I lived there. I had a baby in France. I could barely speak French, but I knew what pousser meant. It meant push. I knew that word. Look, I know milk in almost every language. I don't even like milk. And I know the word for who's got the juice here. Yeah. It's guanchi in Mandarin. It's wasta in Jordan. And so I don't really think about the first thing, but what I hope is that it does inspire other people. And I'd hope that it opens other people's eyes to possibilities. Because a lot of times people might not see us in different places or in different rooms. And I want you to see me in rooms, which is why I go to a lot of schools. Our dad, he passed away last year from leukemia, unexpected. And a couple years ago, he gave me a business card, which was funny because Dad was retired, but he still had business cards. He was passing them out everywhere. And on the back, it said, "You become what you see unless you see what you want to become." So I want that kid to see me. I want that widow to see me. When I was running this time, a widow came up to me in a diner, and she said to me, "I saw you get up, so I got up." I want that. I was over 50 years old when I ran for the first time. I want people with salt and pepper hair. You know, I call it highlights. But I want you to see so that you can see yourself as well. So I don't think about the first, but I'm glad I'm doing it. I hope it inspires somebody. I hope it busts down the door. And as Marla said, in this election for Senate, we had Carol Moseley Braun as the first, right? And it took almost a quarter of a century before Kamala Harris was elected. It took 7 years before LaFonza Butler from California was appointed to the Senate as a black woman. And this is the first time that immediately one left and two came. First time, two at the same time. Yeah.
So how do you deal with, or do you ever experience imposter syndrome?
Oh, I'm not going to ask anybody to raise your hand if you ever experience it. I'll just ask you to raise your hand if you know what it is. Okay. So Marla said, have I ever experienced it? Mm-hmm. And what was it? What's the question?
I don't take it any way you want, because what I want to know is, how do you deal with it? When you are faced with this, I'm not supposed to be in this room.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a couple things I think that people should hear. One is that I don't care how, some people might never experience imposter syndrome. I have, where you do say, how did I get here? Or are they questioning me? Or should I have asked that question? And so one is imposter syndrome, and the other thing that I'm big on is counseling, getting help. Mm-hmm. Because I needed it when I lost my husband. I needed it when I got divorced. I needed it on January 6th.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about January.
Yeah. But yes to imposter syndrome. How do I deal with it? I call you and say, tell me I'm good. You know.
Truly, I'm right now. Get on back out there.
Yeah, right. I text my daughter right before I got up here and said, pray. You know.
But let's talk about January 6th.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at home in Wilmington on a Zoom meeting, and I had the television on.
Right.
And they were showing what was happening at the Capitol.
Yeah.
I had just served as an elector for the state of Delaware. I was one of 3 people that was selected to certify the election in Delaware, so that's why I was watching, to see my vote go into the Capitol and be certified, knowing that you were going to be there. So that made it extra special.
Yeah.
And then it all happened. Yeah. Tell us about January 6th.
Yeah.
And
let me I want to take a step back to the beginning of that morning. Even before that morning, there was an anxious spirit in DC. And, because of COVID, it's not like we were getting in big rooms and having conversations about what are the security protocols and things like that. We were on conference calls talking about that. But you could feel in the street, it felt different. And that morning, I remember getting dressed, and I had like these really cool boots I was gonna wear, sharp. I wore the boots, but something told me to take an extra pair of boots. This is so crazy. They were like Life Stride or Aerosols or something, like really comfortable. And each of us, Nancy Pelosi said, because we can't have you all in the room at one time, we're going to allow shifts of people to come and sit up in the gallery, up in the balcony. And similar to Marla, I also had been a part of the election process because I was one of the co-chairs of the Biden-Harris campaign. I was one of the 4 people on the Vice Presidential Selection Committee. I had been, running that race, trying to help win the House. And so I wanted to be there for that certification. We volunteered to be there. We put our names forward. And I was in the first group. We were only supposed to be there an hour, and then they cycle out the next group. We never got to the next group. And different people were watching on their phones and iPads, and I didn't know what they were looking at. They were looking at what was happening down at the Ellipse and people coming towards the Capitol. And all of a sudden, we see on the House floor the leadership being taken off the floor. Then we see someone else get in the chair to preside, and then they escort all of the other members off the floor, but they forgot. They forgot that we were trapped up in that gallery. The doors were locked, and we did not know what to do. We were told, an announcement came that the building has been breached. Reach under your seat. There is a gas mask. We didn't even know there were gas masks under our chairs. We did not know how to open them because that had never happened before. And I saw different people like Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. We were helping her get the mask open. And then one of my colleagues, I think it was Jason Crow, thought maybe we should go to the opposite side because we were sitting where Democrats sit. So we all crawled up and down through the chairs all the way around to the other side of the gallery, and you could hear banging on the door. And then we heard the gunshot on one side, and then we saw them bust through the glass in the main center door, and folks were holding guns to try to hold them at bay. And my classmate is Val Demings from Florida. And Val and I are really close, and she grabbed my arm, I grabbed her arm, and she said, Lisa, you know there's only one who could get us out of here. And I said, that's right, I'm going to pray. And I started praying, and it started off very soft at first. But then it just got louder and bolder, and I could feel, like even now, my fingertips are tingling. I could feel all of history in that room. I felt slavery. I felt women locking arms for the right to vote. I felt 9/11. I felt the history of this country. And somebody transcribed what I prayed. I don't know, they read my lips because it was streaming live. And I started with the scripture, all things work together for the good. Meaning, as horrible as that moment was, it was like, wake up. How important is this country to you? How important is democracy to you? I prayed for all of us. I didn't pray for Democrats or Republicans or independents. And after that, we heard the banging, and it was the police that got us out of there. And as we were walking, my colleague said, take off your pin, your official pin, because they might notice who we are and somebody might try to kill us. And so I, as a black woman, had a different response. I said, I'm going to take off my pin, but I'm going to hold it in my hand because I don't know if other people might not, law enforcement might not even know I'm a member. And so and then we get into the undisclosed room where we're all in there. We don't know all that's happening out there. And I've only gone viral twice in my life, and it was that same day. Yeah. The same day, one for praying, and secondly for passing out masks. Yeah. And it was a situation where people were about to go to fisticuffs because it was COVID. And we were like, how can you be in this tight room? And so I saw a stack of masks, and I just asked this guy, are you using them? He said, no. And I went from person to person, Democrats, Republicans, staff, media, and I just said, wouldn't you like a fresh, clean mask? And people took them. Now, what showed up on the news was the folks that didn't take them. Marla, she was so badly not wanting to call them names. She is so badly. But an
alliteration of B's, just remember
just
that.
For those of you who might have seen a T-shirt or two.
Leave it at that.
But I will say, that day was the day that I decided to not lean back, but to lean forward and to say, you're not taking this. This is our country too. And so and that led to running for the Senate.
Yes, which. And looking back at history as something that motivates you to keep going, could you share with the audience your scarf?
Oh, yes. So we actually have a middle sister named Thea.
The mediator.
Yes. Not a mediator.
Okay.
Thea is the engineer. She's the rational. And so, not that we're irrational, but there's
One
heart.
of us is.
There's heart. Thea's the hands. And Marla thinks she's the head. She's the brains. But Thea, when I was going to be sworn in the first time, I said, I really want this to be special. I want to wear something special. This is historic, as everyone said. So I was thinking maybe I'll wear what Shirley Chisholm, another Lipman Chair, what Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman in Congress, wore. Okay, it was 1970s. I said, I ain't wearing what Shirley wore. So my sister Thea found a document, our sister, that allowed our great-great-great-grandfather, who had been enslaved in Georgia to have the right to vote. And it was a document that she turned into a scarf for me that I carried. And it is the Returns of Qualified Voters and Reconstruction Oath from 1867.
Yeah.
And on the bottom is the X that he marked. He could not read. He could not write. I carried this with me on the day I was sworn in. I carried it with me on January 6th. This is my proof. This is the proof. Okay, they said stand up and hold it up.
Oh, yes, yes.
This is the proof of what we have been through as a country. This is my inspiration.
Yeah.
I carry this because I want us to not forget what we've been through. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot make it through. That's why that proverb, sticks in a bundle are unbreakable, is so powerful. The collective of your university with another university and another university says we are strong. The collective of the students standing up for this planet and criminal justice, we are strong. This is my proof of what we've been through. I've been through. We're going to make it through.
We're going to make it through. So let's get to your work.
Yes.
I know that you introduced your first bill.
Yes.
With your name on it.
Okay.
Leading.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm excited about that.
And you chose to have your first bill be on housing.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us why you chose housing as the issue
Yeah.
for that historic first bill.
Yeah. I think the things that drive me, when Charles was on his deathbed and I asked, why are we here? It became very clear we are here to love. And when you look at the bills that I've introduced or passed in the House and what we are working on in the Senate, it all comes from that core thing. That when you love someone, you want them to be able to have clean drinking water, clean air. You want them to be housed. Like, you know, for us, I thought back, when I was born, we lived with my grandmother on my mother's side, then my grandmother on my father's side. We lived in an apartment. We lived in public housing in Philadelphia, the Champlain Projects. And then we moved to Delaware and lived in an apartment. And I'll never forget the feeling when my parents got their first home, what that felt like as a kid. This was all before the age of 10 that we lived in these different places.
For you.
And, oh, that I lived,
I was
yes,
6.
yes. The age of 10 for me. But it was something so important. And right now, when I travel my state, one of the number one issues I hear about from employers, from young people, I had a CEO of a company bring in his chief financial officer and he said to tell the congresswoman how old you are. She said 51, which I thought was rude, but he did. Where do you live? With my dad. People can't afford to rent or buy a home. And to me, that's a problem that it connects to kids being able to learn. It connects to us having good health status and knowing about the social drivers of health. It connects to building generational wealth. And so the first bill that I introduced is a bill that is actually bipartisan, is bicameral, Democrats and Republicans in the House and the Senate, and it creates these state and local frameworks so that we can get rid of any kind of zoning requirements, many of which we know were discriminatory from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Some of the zoning requirements, some of the red tape, and giving a menu of options so that it fits your own community, not a one-size-fits-all. The last time we've had a national framework like this was in the 1920s. Life is different. Some people are working in places where I don't need a parking space. I want public transportation. I want to keep the air clean. Some people need a place for their aging parent. Some of the zoning laws and rules prohibit that. And so this bill is supported by 140 organizations across the country, from Habitat for Humanity to low-income housing groups to Up for Growth. And to me, that was a priority. But I also, if somebody asks me what am I most proud of, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that there are communities in Delaware that are unincorporated. These are places that don't have clean drinking water, paved streets, garbage pickup. And I remember when I was working for the governor, I met these families, this was over 25 years ago, and met these communities. And the governor was going to focus on substance abuse, substance use disorder. But when you talk to the people in the community, they said, shoot, we don't have basic water. Like, we have no, why would you think, we don't feel hopeful where we live. And so to be able to go back and bring the dollars to bring drinking water to those communities, I'm proud of that. That's the thing, is the history is important, but the impact is the most important thing to me. So we will work on strengthening our supply chains. Nobody was paying attention to supply chains until the pandemic. Now everybody knows what they are when you couldn't get baby formula, no cars on the lot because we didn't have chips, lumber went up, so housing prices went up. So I tell people I'm bringing sexy back to supply chains. I love it. I got bipartisan legislation because it also lowers the cost of goods, especially now when we have an administration that is like the most unusual, uncertain, just crazy tariffs and trade policy that are not lowering the cost of goods. So for me to work on supply chains, to work on our health status, you heard all those committees that I'm on.
Yes. And can we talk about the fact that you are on 4 major committees? They're not They're not B committees, they're A committees.
Right. Freshmen.
Explain that.
So freshmen get to send in a form and you put your priorities. What are your top 2 A committees that you want? And then you pick a B and a C. And I got the call, over the holidays, and it's like, we got good news for you. You got your 2 A committees. I was like, yes. And I said, what did I get for B and C? More good news. We gave you 2 more A committees. Thank you, I think. So we are busy. We have hearings going on sometimes at the same time, but they're the committees that matter to people. It's the stuff that is important. And I feel on purpose. I feel on purpose. And who said all right? I heard that. I felt that. Yes, I do. And like even earlier today, again, talking to the students, I feel that there is so much that we can all learn from each other. And even this honor is really an honor for me, even to make the connection here at Rutgers with the family legacy, but also the important work that you're doing here. This center, when we talk about, women and politics and people trying to erase our history and maybe erase us,
That part.
this is the time where I always say, Marla knows, my best friend, Michelle, she said, Lisa, I do not have $1,000 to give your campaign, but you are running up and down this state, you are losing weight, I can make pots of spaghetti, I can make beef stew. Michelle did her part. That is what we are called to do. You do you in this moment.
Yes, thank you. So, We are going to open it up to questions, and although this question is not written on the card, and I don't even know if they have a question, but I do want to open this up to William and Walter, who are our youngest attendees and who are just wonderful students, sons of a social work student, Danielle.
Yay!
And I wanted you to at least acknowledge just our wonderful representation
Yes.
of the next generation.
The next generation. Woo! Woo!
And we're glad you're here.
Very impressive that you sat through all of this. I'm so impressed, and impressive for Mom. Thank you for bringing them.
Oh,
This is how we started, going to stuff.
Yes.
Taking us to-
Yeah, our very first campaign was 1974, I believe, for Senator Tom Evans.
Wow.
He was running for Congress.
Wow.
And our father would take us to do lit drops into different events. And so we didn't ask the question, but the way that you got into politics, or you didn't choose to run for office because of Dad's influence.
Right.
But Dad's influence on us understanding the importance of civic engagement
Yes.
in the political
Yes.
process
Yes.
was something that we learned early and
Yeah.
we witnessed often.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's very important that William and Walter are here,
Yes.
and which leads to the very first question.
Just one more thing on that. My dad was city councilman for our district and then city council president later as, when we got older. It actually made me not want to run.
Right.
Seriously, because I would hear him talk to a reporter on the phone and they would demonize him. And it made me so mad. And a lot of times, again, like now I look back and I find journal entries where I wrote about running for Congress in the year 2000, but all the reasons I couldn't. I'm in this tough marriage. I don't have the money. And it was a handwriting. It was a letter. And God wrote back, just bloom where you're planted right
Yes.
now. The time will come. Bloom where you're planted. The time will come. Yeah. Question.
Well, the question is, how do we help young people become political leaders and build their political power?
Well, first of all, we have internships in my office if anyone is interested. And that is so, so first of all, there are so many different places that you can build power and get leadership roles. And so I'm a big believer in saying yes to things. The reason I've traveled to so many countries is because I said yes to things, and most of them were free, because free is good. But saying yes to things. Internships are really important. I've had interns on campaigns and also in our official office who have gone on to they now work in the Senate office. And so even that, student council sounded like a little thing back when I was in high school, but I think it did help to prepare me. Whether it is your church, it is finding what also are you passionate about. If it is climate, there are so many incredible organizations out there that do that work. Do it for free at first. That's how I got seen, and then I got hired. And so sometimes it's just if you can. The good thing now, for internships with us, they are paid. Because we want to make sure everybody gets the opportunity, not just the people who can afford to, go to DC. So, but yes, say yes, say yes. That's one of my big things.
Say yes.
But sometimes say no. Some of y'all overburdened people, some of y'all need to say no. I know, I see you. Oh, she's pointing at Marla. Yes.
You're a part of the burden. So what advice do you give to someone who does not know where to go next and is feeling scared that they won't be able to find roles that will fulfill their purpose?
Oof, that is a big question. Well, first of all, the fear thing is real as well. Like I said, almost every one of these steps, I had to do it afraid. And a lot of times, it feels very uncomfortable to do stuff afraid. But I found that's the only way you're going to get through it. And I think I will tell you, finding your place, that's hard stuff. For me, after Charles died, I had not seen my college roommate in like 30 years. And she wrote me on Facebook. And she said, I know you're sad. I know this is a tough time. She said, but God told me to tell you your work's not done. I said, I know my work's not done. I just don't know what it is. And she said, you're a writer. Go back and look in your journals. That's where I found that entry about running for Congress that I had put back 20 years ago. And so I always have this thing, see it, believe it, say it, do it. First, you have to see yourself as whatever it is. I always wanted to be a writer, but like nobody hired me. So when I got to this whole country of China where I don't have a job, and I started going to writers groups. Then I started volunteering to write newsletters for people. Then I started taking writing classes. Then I got business cards made up that said writer. I get that from my dad. I was like, I'm a writer now. And then 2 other women approached me about the writing project. They noticed that all the books were China entrepreneur, China CEO, nothing for women. And so we decided we're going to write our own book. They became publishers. I became a writer. But I saw it, same with Congress, see it, believe it. I didn't believe it was possible for many years. See it, believe it, say it. When you say something out loud, 2 things happen. One thing, you attract the help that you need. Oh, that's right, you wanted to be a writer. Oh, I got this gig. If you don't say it, nobody knows. Say it out loud, and then when you say it, people hold you accountable. Where's the book? I thought you were writing a book. When's the book coming out? My God, it's like I wish I hadn't said anything. But see it, believe it, say it, and then do it. So many people talk. Woo, there's a lot of talking happening. But you got to step forward and do it. And even running, I looked you guys up. I never ran for anything. I didn't even know where to start. I went to the library. I Googled. I started asking people questions. When it was time, it's funny, we had a friend who was working for an organization called Emily's List. Some of you are familiar with it. It stands for, and there's no real Emily. It's early money is like yeast. It makes the dough rise and gets you some money, dough, you know? But that organization helped me because I didn't know how to pick a campaign manager. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And so you got to say it and you got to do it. But it starts with introspection and asking why. Why me? Why now? What is it I'm supposed to do? What is it that only I can do too? And so that I hope that helps. I hope that helps.
Definitely. So someone asked that you repeat the quote of Dad's.
Oh, yes.
Because that ties into what you're saying right now.
Yes.
These are some great questions. I'm like, yeah, but that was...
You become what you see unless you see what you want to become. Yeah, you become what you see unless you see what you want to become. Yeah.
Many of us, including...
Oh, let me just say one other thing on that. Everybody knows about vision boards and stuff, right? When I decided to run, I took the biggest piece of paper. It stretched almost that whole wall of my living room. And I just started cutting stuff out of magazines. I started drawing pictures. I started putting poems up there. And out of that came the 3 areas that I have focused on: purpose, peace, and planet. That has guided all the different bills, and whether it's purpose with jobs and education, and or whether it is, you know, peace of mind. And that's why I focus a lot on mental health, because it's so important. We are so traumatized. We collectively and individually. And then, like I said, I was an international relations major.
Yeah. So when Lisa met with some of the consultants and shared her 3 Ps, as she so fondly referred to them, the consultants were like, we're going to change that. And Lisa was like, no, we're not. And so one of the things that I really respect is your commitment to who you are, and that you've never changed. Being a woman of faith, being someone that is committed to this work, and just being you. And I think that that is another example that you model for so many people, that you can be kind and still be effective, that you can be a woman, and it doesn't mean that you have to take on other characteristics to not be seen as a stereotype. So I just wanted to commend you to that. So I wanted to read this one because I just, preferential to social work. Can social workers contribute to creating more humane and comprehensive immigration policies?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So I wanted to point out to everyone in the audience that our Dean of the School of Social Work is sitting right here.
Yes.
That's George Leibowitz, Dr. Leibowitz, and many social workers in the room. And as Lisa shared, our father was a social worker as well, and we do know that the way that he approached his work was through a social work lens, and our representation of the values of social work, the dignity and worth of a person, the importance of human relationships, a commitment to social justice and service. Do you think that social workers should be more involved in this political process and helping to create, would that help to create more comprehensive immigration policies, or policies, period?
I was going to say policies, period, as you just said. Marla, I don't know if she had this vision before you came to Rutgers, but she kept talking about building an army of social workers. And I love that, because the skills, and where's Jillian?
And Archie's right there.
Jillian, do you have a social work background or anything? No, why do you? Just Marla, yeah. Jillian is our state director, and we've been actually finding caseworkers and people that can work in our Delaware office that have that problem-solving spirit, that have that respect for people's spirit. And the same is true in our DC office. I think we're preferential to social workers because of the skills that you bring, and how you analyze things, how you see people, and how you respect people. And as it relates to immigration, when you just said that, it just reminded me of the settlement houses, and how the whole point was humanely help people to get connected to jobs, help people to have a good life, help people to transition. And the piece that is so challenging in this moment is the heart. Where's the heart? And I think I really always try to seek to understand. I talk to my colleagues. Even people who don't agree with me on things, and I try to understand, what are you thinking? Where does this come from? Because I find it easier when I do that to be able to help to shift the energy and shift the conversation sometimes. We had a legislator years ago in Delaware, when I was deputy of Health and Social Services, he wanted to put Norplant in all women recipients of, AFDC at the time. I can't remember the names was changed, but TANF, okay? Back then it wasn't called TANF. And I was like, wow, like, that's deep. So I went to him. He was from the lower part of our state, and I was trying to convince him to not do that. We had a conversation, and he kind of like was taken aback, and he said, well, I have colored friends. And I leaned in and said, what colors are they? like Now, mind you, we ended up having real conversation. He ended up not doing it. He always blamed me that he didn't do it, but I had to go into his office. I had to have the conversation. I had to face him. And for me, I tried to lead with love. Now, love is radical. Love is not easy. Love is not just nice, nice. Love is hard. And I believe with all of my soul that is all we're here to do. That's why we're on this planet. To love ourselves, which a lot of times we are so hard on ourselves. We look in mirrors and speak disparagingly. We think we don't say the right thing or ask the right question. Another big tip for the young people, ask your question, because what you find is 15 other people in the room say, yeah, I didn't know what you were talking about either. But somebody's got to say it and find ways. So now I say things like, could you explain that differently? I don't feel dumb saying that. Or, can you break that down? Find the tricks and tips that help you to do that. But we need to love ourselves, love each other, especially the people you don't like. Easy, right? I know, I see you. Yeah. Love the planet. And if you believe in God, love God. That's it. Then you want people to not be whisked away out of our country. Then you want people to have clean drinking water. You want people to be able to have a home.
Yes.
Or an apartment they can afford. You want people to enjoy life. It goes like this. It goes like this.
So recently, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska admitted that she feared retaliation of going against the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Is there any way to somehow work with senators on the other side who feel this way?
So, as some of you may have seen that video of her speaking very honestly and openly in a town hall. She's the senator from Alaska. And I had, before hearing her say that, I had said to some folks that to me there are different groups of people that for some of my colleagues and for us too. There are some folks that these positions are an opportunity. To me, it is a privilege and an honor. But some folks, like in my class, I mentioned Val Deming. Yeah. Well, Matt Gaetz is also in my class. So, so some folks. Then I'm going to leave that there. Then there are people who I believe are scared. They are scared some are scared of losing their seat. Some are scared of their family or themselves being attacked or hurt, or and as Senator Murkowski talked about. And then there are some folks that I believe are true believers in what they believe. They might believe that government's role should be a lot smaller, and that we should care, which I do, about the debt and the deficit. But if you care about the debt and the deficit, you wouldn't be cutting government to give tax breaks to billionaires. But that's another point. So, and then there are some who believe that, you know, like the speaker, he was in our class too. Speaker Johnson was in my class too.
Yes,
And I think he truly believes what he believes. I think he might think that the president is just a flawed person like other flawed people in the Bible and being used, whatever. But if you don't understand where people are coming from, it's really hard to even have a conversation. I think in this moment, it is back to the people. It's their constituents that are speaking up. It is the fact that the largest percentage of federal workers are veterans. And veterans are feeling disrespected. You know, it is their constituents. When we start talking about cutting Medicaid, most people don't know they're even on Medicaid a lot of times. They just think I got this insurance card. People's parents might need Medicaid in a nursing home. 40% of the births in this country are through Medicaid. Yeah. When we start seeing those things come to light, and they will hear from their constituents. It's the power of the people that really matters. And earlier today, a student asked about, someone said, why should I vote? Yeah. That's your power. That is your power. Somebody mentioned, we were talking about it before, about the SAVE Act. Why are people trying to take your vote? Because it is some power. And so in this moment, I will talk to whoever I can, if I feel like I can. Okay, one person I did like pray and stuff before they got on the elevator, but I do think it's gonna be a bigger thing. It's not just me talking to another senator. It's their constituents. It's the people. It's people talking to us. We're not perfect. We're not getting it all right all the time either. That's why this is about the people. That's why I go back to I'm a people. It's the people's house. Because that is where the power is. And I hope if you don't remember anything else that I say tonight, beyond the love piece, hold your power. Yes. Recognize your power. School boards, powerful. City council, freeholders, all of these things that are at the local level, that's part of your power. And you don't have to be the one to run. But if you're called to do it, do it. But do what you do. Thank goodness for so many, not only this center, but I met one of the NAACP leaders here. I got Divine, we got all kind of folks in this room. Know your power in this moment and take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're sitting up there like this. Your neck hurts, your back hurts, your head hurts. Your body is telling you you're stressed and you're not breathing. That's one thing I do, right, Marla?
You breathe.
I breathe.
Take care of
and
yourself.
I take lavender Epsom salt baths. Calgon, take me away. All y'all old people know what I'm talking about. Calgon, take me away.
Every night. You do not interrupt her bath time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, we have so many more questions, but we have no time. So I know. I'm so sorry I couldn't get to all of these, but I just want to, on behalf of the people, because you are the people, thank you.
I'm a people.
And so are we.
Oh, you know what? Let's do that together.
Yes.
On the count of three, we're going to do I'm a people. Okay? And I'm looking at your faces. Because I can see you. I see you right there with that beautiful orange and green scarf. Very nice. Yeah, you. Yeah, you. Yeah. Ah! Okay, I see you. All right, on the count of three. I'm a people sounds dumb.
Well, we the people.
It sounded dumb when I said, we the people.
I'm just saying.
That's what we're
That's
going to
why
do.
I'm the brains, people.
I'm leaving. 1, 2, 3. We the people. Yes, all right.